Please tell us your full name.
My name is Felix Goldberg.
When and where were you born?
I was born in January the 2nd of 1917 in Kalisz, that was Poland at the time. That was the border between Poland and Germany between 1914 and 1918.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about your life growing up in Poland?
Oh yes, I was born in a little village outside of the town of Kalisz, which was very small at that time, you know. And then a few years later, we moved into town. The town, I was a little boy, you know, and I was the youngest of 5 children. I had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And we had a little apartment on the 3rd floor. I remember vividly very much that when I grew up, you know, it was very, very poor, you know, and at the time we did not have a lot of time we didn't. I remember when we grew up, you know, when the time was cold, winter time, we didn't have any groceries, you know, and my mother had to lock the bread up, not because she wouldn't feed us, because it wasn't enough to go around. But as the years progressed a little farther down, as the children were growing up, you know, then my mother, father went in, and they opened up a meat market, and so those mother worked and my father worked. We were at the time, we were going to the public school. I remember my oldest brother and my sisters and brother went to public school. That's the only school you could attend to. And of course, the conditions were very, very bad. You know, in the morning when I was a little boy, I had to attend to services. My father was very religious, and afterwards I had to deliver some meat at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock I had to go to school, to the public school, and stay there till 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock we went home, and then after we had a little dinner, you know, and then I had to go to Hebrew school. Hebrew school, it was till about 7 o'clock at night, and then I went home. No electricity. Everything was working by light, by a kerosene lamp, and the weather usually was very, very cold in the winter time. So that was a way of life, you know. That's how we progressed till the war came in 1939. When I was drafted in the Polish army in the town. Now, we lived in a town where approximately 30,000 Jewish people. The town had about 125,000 populations, you know. It was very nice, a beautiful town. We had even Jewish theaters. We had the soccer clubs. It was a town which is full of life, and that's how we grew up. By the time when you were 21 years old, you had to go into the army. Luckily for me, we had 2 regiments in the same town where I lived, and I served in the same town. Went to the army, to the artillery, approximately 1939, and at the beginning of 1939, and on September the 1st of 1939, the war broke out. So I was already indicted in the army, and the position where we took up was around 200 meters from our house. And my father had seen me, my mother, you know, and he told me, I said, why don't you drop your everything, because we had lost the war to Hitler, you know. At the time, we could hear when Hitler came up, when he put the people out from Germany and put them on the side of the Polish side, you know, near Poznan, you know. So we knew that the fate, what's going to happen to us. Well, we didn't know it's going to be that bad, but after maybe 3 weeks, when we got in the farther down, deeper to the Warsaw front, you know, and we start they start bombarding us, you know, from the airplanes, and it was real bad. We were so tremendously harassed by the German flyers. I was buried for about 3 times up to my neck, and somebody pulled me out, and I lost my hearing. Even I couldn't hear for about 3 months. And we were captured in near Warsaw around October the 1st, roughly. And we were at that time, 3 weeks later, I find myself already in Germany in this place camp, you know, in the camp for you know, this place camp, and we were wound up in several camps. As far as being Jewish in the camps, it was not a big issue, because at the time Hitler didn't get his program started yet, you know. But we were separated, and we worked on the farms. Very, very poor food, you know. It was early now. We were over there about a year's time, and cold. The winter was very bad in 1940. After maybe 6, 7 months on the farms, they came an order that we have to be released from. All the Jewish soldiers have to be released. They're going home. So there was a great news for us. My God, we're going to go home, you know, we're going to see our parents and anything else. But it's not so. They put everybody on a train and took us to a town near South Poland, is near Warsaw on the other side, Lublin, which they have a camp, and set up camp, and got all the Jewish people over there, and we stayed there for about 4 weeks, beaten every day by the SS people. No food, we were so dirty, no baths, no nothing. And they finally, after 3-4 weeks, they gave us a piece of paper, and they said we can go back. They want to put us on the train to Warsaw. At the time, they opened up a ghetto in Warsaw. And I knew my parents were not there, because I never had any communication, but I heard they were still in a little town near Kalisz, where my grandfather was. And as I marched in the back from that camp out, every day they released 400 people, 300 people. And one lady, was a Jewish lady, couldn't walk, and she picked me up from the back and she said, "Come on to my house." And I did go to her house, you know, and she picked me up for about a week's time, you know. In the meantime, my brother found me in Lublin. He found out from somebody where I was. And he was also in DP camp in Germany, and he came by to see me at the time.
Had both of your brothers been in the Army?
One of my brothers been in the Army. Okay. I have one brother with me in Colombia, and one brother I have in Israel. You know, he is the oldest one. They're still very much alive. And then he left. He stayed with me for a day or two, and then he left. And at the time, I got sick. I couldn't walk, and the lady kept me in her house for about 10 days. And finally, I caught a train. We had to wear swastikas on our coats, but I took off my swastika and took a chance. And I caught a train to the direction where my parents were. There was a town, they call it Turek, Turek. That's where my parents, I understand, lived. As I caught a train, and I got on the train, and I was recognized as being Jewish, and an assessment came. You know, we were several people did that, and he said, "Well, I showed them a piece of paper. Somebody, the authorities gave me a piece of paper that I can go to this town." He said, "This is not good. No Jewish people would allow to go in that place anymore. You're going to have to go back." After a good beating, you know, he beat the heck out of me. After a good beating, he sent me back to. He said, "Go back to Warsaw, where they opened the ghetto, where all the Jewish people belong."
Oh, Mr. Goldberg, when you said that they put a swastika on you, was that a star to identify you?
It was a Star of David, you
Okay,
know.
to identify you as
it's like the
being
Jewish star. Everybody had to wear that because
Some way to
being
identify
Jewish.
you.
But I took a chance and took that emblem off, you
Okay.
know. And I was writing without it, but I was recognized.
You
I
were-
would look very much Semitic, you know. And they took me off the train and waited for the next train. But in the meantime, he worked me over pretty good, you know, massacred my face pretty good, knocked out 2 teeth of mine, you know, and said, "You go back to the Warsaw Ghetto." I didn't want to go back to the Warsaw Ghetto. I was riding one station. I jumped from the train and walked by foot.
And you said you didn't want to go back. Had you ever been there to the Warsaw Ghetto?
I'd never been to Warsaw. I never wanted to go to Warsaw.
Okay.
I heard
You'd heard about it.
rumors that they do have they opened up a ghetto in Warsaw, and that's the last place I want to go, I said. And I went back, jumped back one train station. I jumped from the train, and I didn't have any food. I stayed overnight in the field, and there were border patrol over there, but I have a piece of paper from a Wehrmacht that I can go to this town, and he let me walk by, and I walked to the next little town. I walked all night and all day, and I walked up to a little town they call Kutna. It's spells Kutno, and I came in. It was a curfew at night. You couldn't walk at night, but I came into a place where they had a bakery, and he let me spend the night over there. And next day, I went to some another place in the community, and they gave me some. I was very filthy, very dirty. And the rest of it, I cannot tell you how much dirt was on me, and all the worms and everything. They gave me not new clothes, but they gave me better clothes, and I stayed 2 days, and then I went by foot. I wouldn't want to catch the train. And I went to it took me 2 nights and 2 days to come into the little town where I found my mother and father, you know, and they lived in the little town where my grandfather was. The name of the place was Tulishkov. It's near Turek, you know. And they lived, my grandfather owned a little house over there where the German police was there. And I came in at night, and I never got in touch with my parents until 1941. That was 1941 in October, and that was the first time when I saw my parents. And we stayed in this little town for about a year and maybe a year and 2 months. We worked. There was no. People were not in business. We worked everything for the German, for the city. We dug ditches. We worked in the public works. So the only reward we got is a loaf of bread a day, and that's how we got by, you know. But my mother and father had a little bit money left, you know, that we could survive. We worked in this place for about a year and a half. After a year and a half.
Were the rest of your family there? You mentioned your parents.
No, I had 2 sisters over there.
Were they living there?
They were there visiting. Yes, they were there visiting. They were married, and they were there. One of my brothers-in-law passed away for typhoid, but they were with my parents and my grandparents too. And they had a little house, and the police let them stay in the back over there of the house. The German police, the house belonged to my father, but they took the house away from him. But they let him stay for a while. But after a while, they moved out everybody. They moved him to a little ghetto in that little town. And that's how we went to work. And we went to work over there. We dig ditches and different things, you know, pools, you know, public work, you know, in the little town. It was a small town, maybe about 10,000 population. But they had the German guards, and we had to obey by them, you know. After a year and a half, the order came, all the Jewish people, all the men, 21 years old, we have to get, and they put us on a train, you know. From our little town, it was probably about 100, you know, from that little place. And then they took us on a train, on a small train, and we went to a different direction, and the town was named Posen. That's the town where they had in 1956 the riots in Poland, you know. And all around this town there was several thousand people, and they opened up little camps, you know. They liquidate all. They took all the schools, you know, small. They liquidated. There was no schools for the Polish people, and they took all the schools and put our people in. Every little village had 200-300 people, and we were working in the village.
Now, who went to this town? You went. Did any of your family go with you?
No family.
Okay,
only
men.
21, 22, 23. Start from 17, 18 years old. They got us all together. No women, no nothing. Just single men.
So you were the only one from your family at this time that was
I'm
forced
the
to
only
go.
one from the family. Nobody went with me. We just had a whole group of people and friends. We were there, and they put us on a train, and they opened up work camps. Those were work camps where we worked, and we dug new rivers, you know, because that's supposed to be German already. That shouldn't go back to Poland anymore. That was an area where, during the war, a lot of German, they call them Volksdeutsch. A lot of people who were Germans, but they lived in Poland. So it was at the time. It belongs to Germany already. You know, they said there will be no Poland anymore, and we worked in those camps. But the food was very, very poor. We ate every day. They get us about a quarter pound of bread and a quart of potato peel soup. That's all we had to eat all day long. We in that little school, you know, where we went, we didn't have any beds. They produced boards, you know, and put straw on top, and that's how we worked. And then we were there about 250 people. And about a year and a half or 2 years later, was left about 75, 80 people. Everything else was died on typhoid. I was sick on typhoid too. I fought it, you know. I was lucky. I was strong enough. You know, bigger the people were, and the harder they fell, because a big person needs more food than a small person, you know. And at that time, you know, we were working over there about a year and a half. There's some people, you know, got out at night. You know, we were fenced around by a fence. There was no guards, but when you got caught overnight going to people ask for bread or something like that, you know, when you got caught, we had hangings every Sunday. Every week they put together from all the camps a lot of people, you know, and they hang every week 10, 12 people, you know, right in the middle of the woods for just for going out at night. And that's how it went on for about until the end of 1942. In 1942, there was an order to keep all those people together, you know, bring all those people together, and we caught a train from Ravich, that was a town near Posen, and all
those people, you mean all the people that were in that camp?
They had a series of camps over in this area where there maybe 10, 12 camps. Each village had about 200-300 people, because when we dug the rivers, you know, we had to meet the other people when we finished, you know, after a while, you know. But then the order came.
So you were aware of other camps?
Right, we were aware. We saw the people. They were in the same conditions that we are. We dressed. They didn't give us any dressing. Everything was torn apart. Everything was just we looked like people from the other world, you know. It was no washing, no nothing.
It was still all men.
Everything,
at this time?
all men, you know. And then the order came in 1940, the end of 1942, 1943, and we were all expedited on a train. Half of them was half dead anyhow, you know, and they transport us. We were riding about 2-3 days, and we came to a place called Auschwitz. It was at night. We came in at night at 12 o'clock at night, and we didn't realize what's what because nobody knew about it. We were only men, and we were lucky because we were only men. But I understand later the previous transports, they came to Auschwitz. They all were taken off and all belongings were taken away, but we didn't have any belongings with us because everything was so poor. But they knew that we came from a work place, so they didn't take nothing away from us because we didn't have anything. And the whole shipment was left alive, except they said who cannot walk and cannot cope with himself should go on the trucks, you know, at that time. And I never want to do that, you know. I always tried to go to work wherever I was. I think that was the best solution. I always, for a freelancer, I said, I'm first to go to work, and that's what I did. And a lot of people went on the truck, and they went right straight to the crematorium because they didn't want to bother with them, you know. Then we stayed there till about in the morning, at one place in the morning. They gave us a bath. They put us, no shoes, barefooted, you know, and they put us tattoos on the arm, you know, which I have right in here, you know. At the time, I was an early bird. In 1943 wasn't was a lot of people there, but we was one of the earliest people in Auschwitz, you know. So they let some alive, and then the next morning there was Auschwitz, and there was also Birkenau. Birkenau was a place where they took all the people who were alive, you know, and they left them over there, you know. And it was big blocks, buildings, you know, made out of wood, you know, and each barrack had probably 500-600 people. In each floor it was boards, you know, 4 or 5 boards, and each board had slept about 15-20 people, and that's how we looked, you know, and looked like wild animals, you know. The food was consist of black coffee in the morning and a quart soup, no bread at that time, you know. They didn't have it. It was we stayed there 3 weeks in the beatings. In the morning, we had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They have to count everyone off, you know. And if anybody didn't walk fast or slow, and he got beat anyhow, they put your head in the oven, you know, and just, you had to be beaten. There's no way in the world. That was the orders, you know.
Did y'all talk to each other?
Yeah, we can talk to each other. Everybody was in the same place. It was about 300, 400, 500 people in one place, you know.
What types of things did you talk about?
To the people?
Right.
Dream of having a loaf of bread in my hand. If we ever going to get, we dreamed about food. That's the main part. When you were there, you're just hungry, you know. There's no place to go. You look for, only what you could see is we didn't realize that there was a big chimney, and they're burning people over there. Later on, you know, it's no wonder the world didn't know it, because they wouldn't believe that they were burning people over there with crematoriums over there. We looked at that thing, we wouldn't believe it, you know.
So you were not even aware of it?
No.
Okay.
I was not aware of it. We wouldn't believe that.
Did you ever see people not come back? I mean, people that were with you leave and not come back?
No, I'll get to that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We were there for about 3 weeks. the winter started to set in. That was the worst part. The summertime you can cope, but in the wintertime it was very, very cold. The climate in East Europe is very, very cold, like 20, 25 below sometimes, and that was the worst part of it. And then after 3-4 weeks, I don't know, everybody knows about a man named Dr. Mengele, and we had, he pulled out the whole block, everybody, about 400 or 500 people came in, and they start coming forward, whoever looked good, he sent them to the right, whoever didn't look good, sent them to the left. That means to the right, you were lucky to be alive. Anything to the left, they put them right on the trucks and put them in the crematorium, the left of it. I was one of the luckiest people and was alive. And next afternoon, they give us shoes and give us different clothes and put us in the truck. And we traveled approximately around 30 kilometers, which was about 20 miles, to a coal mine. I said, that's great, at least we can get to work. And Auschwitz was as big probably as the city of Columbia, or bigger, maybe bigger. And they had also work camps. They had coal mines. All right near there was a lot of coal mines, and they sent us to the coal mines, and we start working the coal mines, Working the coal mines for several years, the food was somewhat better, but I consider myself awful lucky because I worked in the coal mine as a, I sent cars up and back, operator of the elevator, It was a great job, and many times they sent a lot of people up, our people, which they got killed, from fallen coal, and I was the lucky one. I had to go get them, lift them on my shoulders, and bring them up, and that was the worst part I didn't like. But otherwise, we worked there in this camp for about, I worked on the second shift over there. We went to work in the morning, 8, we went on the second shift. We started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 10. But before we came home at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, we had to walk home. As we walked from the coal mine, we were chained with, we were 200 people every shift, but we were chained with rods, through our hands. We were wearing cuffs here, so we couldn't run away. So that took a place of working 8 hours. It took us about 13, 14 hours till we got to the barrack. At the barrack, we didn't have our bed. You had to chase a place where you can sleep and find yourself a place. If not, you found yourself on the floor. And at 5 in the morning, we had to be up because we had to be counted again. Then we went back to bed. About 11 o'clock, we had to get up again, and to be counted again and get ready to go to work. And that took us all the way around the clock, so it was a murderous job. And then plus you had to go to work, and the work was cold, over there. But I was extremely lucky because the people I worked with over there, there was Polish people, and we worked with civilian people, though some of them, they did bring us a little bit of food that wasn't that bad, But you come up and it was filthy dirt, I always organized another extra set of clothes, You have to be real good and to survive that thing and to be able to do some theft, not food, but, clothes, or you look good. When you look good and you clean your clothes, you had a better chance because usually, if you take some extra time, and I did that, so anyhow, it wasn't as bad over there as in Birkenau. We were hungry all the time, but it was better than over there, than in Birkenau. That's been going on something like that for about a year. At the end of 1944, we could hear we knew roughly that Russia is present. We knew we have to hold on. We had people coming in from the Warsaw, from the ghetto, from the uprising in Warsaw, you know. We knew roughly what's going on. We knew every moment what's going on, you know.
So that's how you got news, is when new people
Well,
came?
that was our hope, you know, because we could attack the SS people. They were a little softer, you know. Their attitude changed a little bit, you know, and not much, but they changed, you know, and we could see that the end is coming very much. Anyhow, one evening after that, we went to work in the coal mine, you know, and we came home about 1 o'clock in the morning. There was no more camp left. The American Air Force mistook the camp, you know, and bombed our camp, you know, and there were a lot of people killed. They also got the SS quarters at the same time. We came in about 1 o'clock. There was no place where to go. Everything was leveled, but a lot of people dead, but we were still alive, you know. And the next morning, the SS people knew that the end is coming, but they wouldn't believe it. But they formed some little groups with themselves, you know, like 15, 20 assessments. They took us, the whole camp, about 6,000 people. It was left. It was about 10, 12,000 people in the camp. That camp they call Yavorno. That's a coal mine camp. They took the whole camp out on a march, and they marched. It wasn't very far deep to the German border, and we were marching for 2 weeks. I would approximately imagine about 6,000 people, night and day, no food, and we slept as we walked, you know, but we had another idea, you know, if we put hands together, you know, 5, 6 people, and walk together, so we can walk together, but whoever walked single, who was asleep and walked aside, and he got shot right away, you know. They killed a lot of people. We finally, after 2 weeks, we came into a camp, also another displaced camp they called Gross Rosen, you know, and there was another displaced camp. Luckily, they give us a little bread to eat over there, and they give us another piece of bread, and a day later, they put us on a train and went ahead and went to Buchenwald. I didn't know we were going to Buchenwald. I did not know. And probably about 15, 20,000 people on this train. We traveled on this train without any food, without anything for about 4 nights. We went through all the bombardments, and we went through Berlin, and half of the people, we were traveled like this for about 2 weeks. Very little food. The bombardments were awful. And finally, we wind up in Buchenwald one night, you know. We came into Buchenwald. It was of January of 1945. And I have to go back before Buchenwald. I'm sorry. It's very hard to remember. It's been years, you know. And when we went on the Dead March back, we wound up in a city called Blechhammer, a nice little town, you know. We stayed there 12. The frost was so bad, you know. It was about 30 below zero. And laid down on the middle of the little town. Everybody was dead, you know. And it wouldn't be for my brother-in-law David, who was with me, I would be going to sleep, because it was so cold. He said it wouldn't be for a moment, I would have been dead. they took us to that camp, the Blechhammer camp, you know, and we stayed there for 3 nights, and I could hear the shooting, the artillery in the back of me. And I thought we're going to be liberated right there, but it wasn't so. Later I find out I was in that camp together with my brother. I didn't know he was there, and I didn't know he was there. But he was lucky enough. He stayed till he was liberated. And we were taken with another assessment group, and we went again to they took us to that Gross-Rosen camp. Then they put us on trains and then we wind up in Buchenwald. In Buchenwald, it was also at night, and I thought for sure we're going to go to the gas chamber. I was 100% sure this is it, because they put us to showers and things like that, and I said, well, by now we knew what's happening over there, you know, and I said, this is it, you know, and but somehow or another they give us showers and they let us alive. We stayed in Buchenwald for between January of 1945 and April of 1945. We could hear the artillery in the back. We could hear planes. And the Germans, when we came to Buchenwald in 1945, we were 81,000 people over there in that camp. We were together, everything was mixed. Russians, Yugoslav, Germans, everything in the world. You know, every afternoon and evening, they give us a little wooden nickel. For this wooden nickel, we could get a quart of soup. Well, a lot of Russian, they were in our block, and in the morning, we could find 10, 15 dads over there. They choked them and took the little wooden nickel away because they want to get an extra meal. That's how it works. Every morning in Buchenwald, it was 30, 40, 50 dads outside the block, you know. They just hauled them away and just, that's how it was. That was life. We walked over dads, you know. That was a common thing every day. It didn't bother anybody, you know. That's, if you're hungry, you just do whatever is impossible if you're stronger. At the time, between January, Buchenwald, they started moving out some people. Every day they called numbers, and every day maybe 1,000, maybe 1,500, they took them out. They claimed they went to work. It wasn't so. They called my number many, many times. I said, I am not leaving this place. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die right in here. I could hear the back of myself, the artillery, and I said, this has to be it, otherwise I'm not going nowhere. And sure enough, I stuck it out so much, and a lot of people did. I went and they called my name many times. I stayed under the block for about 3 nights. I remember I had some sugar turnips. They were very sweet, and I had to eat. We had to eat something. It would tore my throat up, you know. Sure enough, on Friday morning, on April 11th of 1945, we saw the first American walk into. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We saw the first American walking into Buchenwald. And that was a day I'll never forget. That was a time, that was a Friday. And that night, Friday, there was a man by the name of Rabbi Schechter. He was a chaplain in the American Army. And he put all the people together, and we had a service that very same night. And you can imagine how tragic it was. But anyhow, that was a day I'll never forget in my life. afterwards, we stayed over there 2-3 weeks. A lot of people died over there. Their lots were full. The American army didn't know how to cope because they didn't have the right people, the right food. The basements were full of that. And then they started bringing in the German people from Weimar. Buchenwald was outside Weimar. There was a big town near in East Germany. And they showed them all those things, and they start to work at them and start to bury the people, you know. And they moved us out from there, moved us to the SS blocks. We stayed there for about 2-3 weeks, maybe more. And we got some better food, you know, and they start to cook us some things, and then we got a little better on it. And at that time, the American Army, they had, that was the Yalta Conference took place with Churchill and Stalin and this and that. And then the East Germans knew that the fate was on, that we're going to have to move out from there. So they gave us a choice. I said, either you stay here or go back to Poland, or you can come with us. Of course, we chose to go with the American Army, because first thing, they gave us food, and they were great to us, you know. We met some Jewish American soldiers, you know, and they were so great. They were so nice to be with, you know. They were crying like children when they came in the camp, and so those people over there, all of that people, it's just. You cannot describe all that. It's impossible for anybody to describe that, what's happened. In the meantime, you know, they moved us out from there. We went to a place, they took all the displaced persons, put them on a train, you know. Still on a train where cows went, but it was decent, you know. It was everything was organized, you know. We had food and enough food, it didn't bother us at all, you know. And we came into Landsberg, that was near Munich, and they opened up a camp over there for all the displaced persons, you know. And they were all nationalities, but they made a Jewish camp out of it. And there was probably about 5,000-6,000 people. And we were supported by the UNRWA, which is the United Refugee Organization, you know. And that's how we made our life and start to the time General Eisenhower came visit the camp, and we were happy, you know. I remember talking to him, you know. Yeah. It was a thrill to be there. And
what types of things did you do?
We didn't do nothing. Right. We had they did have work in the camp. There were different schools you could go to. You could go to like when we could go have courses of tailors, dresses, and they call it it's an organization which takes care of the people, and we did a lot of good things. They had shops, you could learn a trade over there, carpenters, you know. Everything was furnished through the United Refugee Organization, also the Joint, the American Jewish Organization. They furnished us for that. You could be very productive. In fact, a lot of people did learn a trade over there, and when they got through over there. And that time there was some women. We started to see women coming in too, you know. And at the time, I met a little girl over there, you know, and there was several of them. There was my wife, Bluma, you know. And we started getting a little bit more like people, you know. And there was a fellow, a name, I said, you know, I was so good organizer. I organized a camera, you know. And I have made, I said, my friend said, I know a little girl who wants a nice picture with you, so I take her a picture, you know. And a few days later, I brought her back the picture, and she said, how much I owe you? I said, you don't owe me nothing, you owe me a kiss. She said, no. And she said, I give her a kiss, and she slapped my face. And from then on, you will see her this afternoon. that's how I met my wife, you know. And then we stayed over there in Landsberg for about several years. I married her, you know. In fact, she had a sister also with her during her time in camp. So we had two weddings. I was with my brother-in-law, we had two weddings one night, two sisters, and a friend of mine, we married two girls, two sisters. So those sisters are still together there in Germany. They're in Colombia, lived together.
Well, when did you get news about the rest of your family? When did you find your brothers?
My brothers, my brother was in Israel, you know.
Did you find them in Landsberg?
They at that time, there was 1945 when the illegal immigration to Israel started, and it was the Haganah was an illegal Jewish organization was born, you know. And they were taking people from Germany and from our camp, different camps, and put them on boats illegally to Israel, because you know the fate of our people. We like to have a country so much of our own, and it's been 2,000 years since that didn't happen. And that was a good chance that happened at that time, you know. And we were very much Zionist-oriented, you know. We were all for it, you know, and everybody was working toward to it. And my two brothers left me to go to at that time was Palestine, today it's Israel. And they left to go on they call it Aliyah Beit, it's illegal immigration. And they got caught, and they wind up in Cyprus. But when Israel was created in 1948, they brought into Israel, and they start work in Israel, you know. And they wanted to bring, I was still in Germany at that time, and they want me to go to Germany. But somehow or another, we had a registration to everywhere in the world, to New Zealand, to Australia, to God knows where, but they said it also to the United States. We did, and we did get the papers, you know. Her sister was the one who was responsible for it. She was here already, you know. She came 6 months earlier, and we finally got the papers, and I decided not to go to Israel, you know, and to go to the States. And finally, we went to the States, you know. Our first transport went to New Orleans, you know, that they never had over there, and we were so sick on the way. We were transported, not by passenger ship. It was a trooper, you know. And after we left Bremen, and on the way it was everybody, 100% of people, everybody was sick so bad that I said, I don't believe I ever I'll ever live to be in America, you know. But you know, somehow or another, that wasn't the worst thing in your life, but we wound up, we came into New Orleans, you know, and we came into New Orleans. The band was playing so beautifully, and we were greeted by the Jewish organization and by the old organization. All churches were there. They took us right away to their church. We spent the night over there. The next day, we were designed to go to Columbia, South Carolina. And that's how we came into Columbia, South Carolina. At the time, I had a little boy with me. He was 14 months old, you know, and we couldn't speak the language, you know. Of course, we couldn't. It was very hard. So people guided us from one train station to the other station until we came to Columbia. You know, we came to Columbia. There were two ladies waiting for us, plus her sister, you know. And we came in on October Day on 1949 to Columbia. And it was a very touchy, tough situation, because it's very hard to come to a country which you don't know the language, and you couldn't talk, you couldn't walk, you know. And that was one of one of the main things which was bad for us. But you know, you have to cope with life. You cope with life. So we came over to United Jewish Appeal. You know, we've been helped. They paid for the trip. You know, and each church took a few families. You know, and we came to Bet Shalom Synagogue. You know, or it was the temple, you know, the both churches, you know, they're both Jewish, it doesn't make a difference. And we, first thing, they want me to go to school, you know. But as far as education, I had a 7th grade education in home, which probably equals here to high school, because the way we were taught in Europe was different. They were taught in here. We didn't have 3 months vacation, you know. We had only 2 months, and we had to go to school still. Anyhow, we came to Columbia, and of course we know the language, you know. I was in Europe. I was a apprentice of a printer, you know. I was learning at the time the war broke out, you know. I was 21 years old, you know, at the time. Anyhow, I wanted to go to work as a printer, but not knowing how to speak English, you know. It was a bad situation. So the community said, well, we pay you a little bit money every week and you start going to school. And then at the time, there was an opportunity school in West Columbia. Mrs. Gray was the teacher, you know, she was a principal. And I went, it was a long way, and I caught the bus every day, and I went to opportunity school. They put me in the 1st grade, but, you know, I went to the 1st grade, but I could read and write, you know. I wasn't illiterate, you know. And one day I went to Miss Gray. I said, Miss Gray, I said, I can count and I can read and write, but I can't understand English. I said, I want you to give me a test. I said, she said, fine. So she put me in the 2nd grade, in the 6th grade. I said, well, it's better. But I went to 6th grade, and nothing came out for me, because those things I knew. I knew how to read and to write. So finally, I quit the school, and I was a family by the name of Mrs. Julian Hennick in Columbia. It was a very beautiful person. She's not alive anymore. And she took me home for several months, and she gave me lessons of English. And of course, I started to work for a company by the name of General Arts, some floor coverings, you know. And I worked for them for, well, I started working, I had the same problem, you know. I couldn't speak, but I could learn how to work, you know. At the time, you know, they had a job in New Mexico, in Las Cruces, White Sand Proving Ground. They asked me if I would go over there to work. I said, I'll go anywhere. I'll go to Siberia to work. So we were over there for about 8 weeks, you know. And I couldn't get in the camp because I wasn't a citizen, but somehow or another they gave me permission to go to the camp. I remember we had 106 houses for the Navy. And I started to work over there. We were 4 people, and we worked piecework, and I did approximately 75 houses, me and one man. When I came back from there, and I made my first $450, and I said to my wife, we are rich. There's nothing better in my life, you know. I said, this is I've always dreamed. I can eat, I have a child. Anyhow, I worked for this company for about 5 years, and I saved up some money, and I bought the company out. And I stayed over there a while, and then we moved up the street, and we built a new, because meantime we had 2 more children. We had another son, Carl, and then we have a daughter, Aston. We had 2 boys and a girl. And we built a new store. You know, I remember I went to the bank, and I said to the banker, I said, look, Mr. Jeff Gott, I need $10,000. I want to buy this piece of property. He said, you need what? I said, I need $10,000. But he saw the way I did business. He gave it to me. He let me have it, you know. And of course, I paid them back. We needed to build a new building, you know. In the meantime, you know, we had a very good response. We went into the tile distributing business, the ceramic business, and the kids work business, you know, and we have the kids in the business, you know, and they opened another store, and that's the opportunity for America. Happily married, got a beautiful wife. You will probably meet her this afternoon, you know. And that's, we can buy whatever you want to. This is the land of opportunity.
And you learned to speak English, obviously.
I don't know. Whatever I do, we try very hard to keep up with the events, today's events. We're active in the church, and we're active in the Masons. We're active in any organization. We support anything possible we can, whatever we can. I think this is the greatest there is, and I think we support. This country is just wonderful. It's a wonderful place to be. I think it's the most wonderful place in the world.
Well, thank you for telling us your story. Is there anything else you want to add?
I would like to add something to it. I wrote it down, and I would like to say something concluding for this interview. I think I'm a fairly happy guy, and I am a grateful guy. I live in the best country in the world, the USA, with the best wife in the world, Bluma, but I carry inside me a very unpretty past, and I worry that what I experienced in my past, others should not experience in their future. Let us all appreciate the freedom we have and guard it and preserve it at all costs. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. How do you feel?
How was it?
You did good. You did very good.
I probably left out half of it. You know.